This is Monica Perez here today with the great Weezy from the What is Truth podcast. You know him from my show. You might know me from his show. But today we have a very specific topic in mind. But first, let's say hello. Hey, Weezy, how you doing?
Hello, my friends. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you seem well yourself.
Thank you. It's a beautiful Sunday out here in sunny Florida.
Oh, that's great. It's a little bit overcast here in LA, but whatever. You can hardly tell because it is so full of dust. We've gotten through these levels of like stages of the fire recovery, and now they cleared all of the debris away for the most part. And so what's left is 9,000 empty lots, and like the trees are gone from the lots, everything, and it's dust. It's dust. So unless you're paying double, your flunky is running around with this little bobcat throwing dirt around. Oh my gosh, I can't even. I have to turn the air purifiers back on. But we are making progress. So anyway, it would be a nice day, but I can't go outside at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. I think I should probably do a little more work on the fire as we see what emerges from the rubble. what
Yeah.
what plot, what cui bono may emerge. So, but you and I were talking about Lincoln because I did a great episode with James Perloff, and I didn't even know that Dave McGowan had raised doubts about the everything you know about the Lincoln assassination is wrong. I've read plenty of books about Lincoln, starting with The Real Lincoln by Tom DiLorenzo, but I never really dug into the assassination. So I did my homework. I read most of the McGowan stuff, and there are, I think, the official narrative, what Perloff says, what McGowan says. There are a lot of fishy details that I don't think are disputed from how many people were involved, whether they had northern ties or southern ties, if they ended up dead or maybe promoted, whether was it Jackson who was next? Johnson, no, Andrew Johnson, who was the first one to be impeached. He was next he after Lincoln. Was he involved? So I have all these questions, but it's so many details that I'm wondering if you can kind of slow it down for me and walk us through. And I guess, where might be a good place to start?
Well, we can recap the official story if you'd like.
Great. Perfect.
I think when people hear Lincoln assassination, uh, you hear bits and pieces growing up as kids in school in the public school system. And I think by and large, most people's understanding of the Lincoln assassination only goes as far as there was an actor, a famous actor, John Wilkes Booth. He apparently hated Lincoln so much that he shot him at a theater. And that's pretty much it. That was my understanding for the longest time. And then a few years back, I ran into David McGowan's book on the Lincoln assassination. I have been heavily influenced by a lot of his work and his research. Uh, you know, when I first found out about his, for example, the Boston Marathon bombing, I'm like, man, I love it. And I just couldn't get enough of McGowan. So I never really cared for Lincoln or any of that stuff. It never really did anything for me. So I started reading that book. I'm like, holy smokes, this is wild. And I started understanding why McGowan started covering it, because the story is so outlandish. And this is probably why we don't get taught the entire story, because there's so many holes to it. It's so cartoonish and it falls apart very, very quickly. And there have been Lincoln assassination researchers that question certain aspects to the official story. Uh, One of those early books is by Otto Eisenschimmel
Mm-hmm.
that was written in the 1930s. and he went through the archives and pulled out a lot of primary source documents and started looking it over. And he came away saying that, yeah, a lot of the people close to Lincoln within his own party were involved. And the thing is, there have been people that question certain aspects of the official story. McGowan, going through the official story, says, man, none of it makes any sense. And so I ended up voicing over his audiobook that he has on the Lincoln Assassination. It's on my podcast player if anyone's interested. I believe it's nestled in the 169, 170 range. If I didn't number that particular episode, so you'd have to go down to around that range to find that book. And it's called Why Everything You Think You Know About the Lincoln Assassination is Wrong. And I've listened to myself read it at least 10 times.
Wow, really?
Maybe more.
Is that what you sent me? You reading it? Because I don't do audiobooks. So
Yeah.
I didn't even click on it. I like to read, but oh, cool. Well, if
Yeah.
I'd known it was you, I would have listened to it. A little companionship on my walks.
Well, it was my first stab at it, so there was a couple of mistakes. I plan on cleaning it, redoing it at some point. But it was such a fascinating read, McGowan's breakdown on it, because he puts in all the weird coincidences, all the stuff that at first glance you may accept it, and when he points it out, you understand how absurd it is to accept the official narrative on these events. So, like I said, I'm heavily inspired by his work, and I've read many books on the subject at this point, and I don't know what to believe. I do have some theories that are far, far different than you'll hear anyone, even historians like James Perloff. My views are far different than his, and him and I had.
Yeah, you talked to him about it?
Oh yeah, we had I had him on my show, and it was awesome because it wasn't mean spirited or anything.
Yeah, no, it would be. Yeah, he's an OG right there, and yeah, he wouldn't be insecure about his, his conclusions. I really want to hear that.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Let's put it in the show notes. So let's put some of these things in. If you can send me an email, it'll be easier because I forget these things. But I want to put in the show notes the McGowan blog stuff, which I've read or whatever. It's like a serial book in chapter format, and then your audiobook, and then my Perloff show, and then your Weezy versus Perloff show.
It's like a little debate that we had, which I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, I bet. There's nothing like talking to somebody who knows what you already know, and then you can actually tease out the more sophisticated issues and see what they think and say, well, if I can't beat this guy's argument, maybe he's right. And if he can't beat my argument, I'm sticking to my guns. It's great. I love that.
Yeah, and I think people that are fascinated in this topic would enjoy that conversation because I felt real sure about my conclusions and my theories. And I wanted to go up against someone like a James Perloff, someone that's written books on the topic. I wanted to see how I would fare, and I felt damn good. So
I want people to who've listened to my show. They've already heard Perloff. They're going to hear this, and then after they've heard both of these, they should go listen to you guys back and forth. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think people would love that. But yeah, I mean, we can quickly recap the official narrative.
What's the official narrative? Yeah.
So the official narrative is that John Wilkes Booth, I'm going to caveat a lot of stuff because this is one of the things that you'll see throughout the Lincoln assassination, that depending on who's telling the tale, you'll hear one side. You listen to another historian, he'll tell you something completely different. It's like even the major aspects to the Lincoln assassination, there is no consensus. You can have 3-4 different versions. And so the way I look at it is, if you can't even get your damn story straight, you can't even have a consensus, why should I believe any aspect of it? And that's a valid question to have. And so a lot of
Agreed.
times, yeah, as I go through the official story, I'll tell you, look, this is the official tell, but you'll hear some historians say this, you'll hear some historians say that. They'll omit this, but they'll accept that. It's like they cherry pick whatever narrative they want to construct about the official narrative, just so it makes it fits. Because again, the story doesn't make any damn sense. So the official story tells us that Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater on April 14th of 1865. And this was a few days after peace was declared between the North and the South, at Appomattox. And so you can imagine everyone was relieved. In the Maryland area, DC area, it was celebrations. Everyone was happy. So Lincoln was going to celebrate by going to the theater to watch Our American Cousin, basically a comedy, having a good time. Ulysses S. Grant was supposed to be there with him, and most of the people that were going to go to the theater were excited. They were happy that the war was over, but they wanted to go catch an eye of the hero, Ulysses S. Grant. They liked Lincoln, but he was a regular fixture. So really, the prize was to go down there and see Ulysses S. Grant. Well, yeah.
I just noticed your hat. He's wearing literally a Confederate soldier's cap, like straight out of a Clint Eastwood movie. And it looks great on you, by the way. Like, that's a nice hat on. But you're in Florida, so people probably will not kill you for wearing that. But I would not go north of the Mason-Dixon line with that thing on.
I'm sure it just throws people off, like a Mexican guy wearing a Confederate flag, Confederate hat. Like, what's going on here? It's
that's excellent.
It's just for giggles.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
so they were looking for Grant. That's I didn't know that. I didn't realize. Like, so he for sure was going. I know that, but I didn't realize like that it would have been super cool.
Yeah. Everyone was excited to see Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant decides a couple of hours prior to the play to say, "Yeah, you know what? Sorry, bro. I got to catch the midnight train out of Dodge."
Dude, the second I read that, when I cracked Perloff's book, which is in the beginning, like in 1 second, I was like, oh boy, I know what's coming. Yeah. Like, obviously, you know what's coming, but I was like, oh, are you kidding? It was like straight out of, whatever. Who's the guy who's like the Secretary of the Treasury? It's not Besant. It's one of the guys whose office was in 9/11 in the Twin Towers.
Larry Silverstein too. Remember
him too? Yeah, right. He was like, "Oh yeah, I went to the dentist or whatever." Yeah, I was gonna say Larry Silverstein, but this other guy's story was even more unlikely because he said it was his like kid's first day of kindergarten, and it's like really in the middle of September, okay, and and his brother was still inside. But like these stories, like okay, I happened to decide. Seth MacFarlane has one of those stories, by the way. And his story is like the same kind of your official narrative is too much. He's like, yeah, I was running late because I was super hungover, but also my travel agent gave me the wrong time. So I was super, super late. It's like, you only need one excuse. Like 2 excuses sounds a little fishy. But yeah, so when the story doesn't hold together, you got to wonder. But as soon as I heard that Grant didn't show up, I was like, okay. He must have known. I don't know if he knew what was up, but he must have known something was up. And that's kind of uncool.
Well,
oh wait, didn't he warn Lincoln not to go?
No, that wasn't Grant.
That was somebody.
Yeah. Even Matthew Crooks not Matthew Crooks. I got that. Gosh, his last name was Crooks as well, but I can't remember his first name. He was supposed to go with Lincoln, but he told him not to go either. And then there's a tale that I don't know if it's true or not, that Lincoln had premonitions that he was going to get killed that night. I haven't been able to fully verify it. And that's the thing. You don't know what's just been added, to add lore to the story and make it more magical and whatnot. That could definitely be one of those things. But it's interesting with Ulysses S. Grant the official people will tell you, oh yeah, well, it's because Ulysses S. Grant's wife did not get along with Mary Todd Lincoln. That's the excuse they give you, but it doesn't make sense because if Grant would have gone, he would have been the guest of honor. He would have been in the under the adoration of the crowd, man. He was the hero. He was the boss. He just saved the Union. And he decides to bail out. And it's not just anyone. He bailed out on the president.
And Mary Todd Lincoln was batshit crazy, if I understand correctly. No one could possibly have ever gotten along with her. And everybody knows, the boss's wife, you just got to claim. You don't get to like, oh, honey, we're not going. I don't like that girl. She's a jerk. It's like, no, this is where the money's made. You're going. You keep your mouth shut. But I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm under the same way of thinking. The other interesting thing is that Grant could have easily taken the 6 a.m. morning train on Saturday and would have been in New York, only a couple hours different. And then you would have been able to sleep in your own bed, take in the adoration of the crowd, but you're going to take the midnight train. That is super sketchy. So I list him under my way of thinking on the assassination. I list him as a very suspect figure. At the very least, he knew what was going on and he didn't want no part of it.
Right.
So then Lincoln's next choice was Thomas Eckert. Thomas Eckert was the Assistant Secretary of War, a large dude, 6'4", and he was very close to Edwin Stanton. Edwin Stanton was the Secretary of War. Mm-hmm. I view him as the Donald Rumsfeld of the Lincoln Assassination.
Stanton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there have been books. There's a book by James Swanson who just writes the official tale, and they even made a Netflix show on his book that tells the official narrative. And in those books and in the Netflix, they make Edwin Stanton as someone that loved Lincoln. All these conspiracy theories that Stanton hated Lincoln are outlandish. They're off base. This guy loved him. But I'm going to give you plenty of reasons why you should not hold those thoughts about him. Edwin Stanton was a very weird fella. He, at one point, he had a daughter that died. And about a year later, he digs her up. And her corpse is in his office.
What?
Perfectly normal behavior, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he does many things throughout this period that makes you like this cartoonish image that we get that he was a saint and he loved Lincoln so much and all. It's complete and utter nonsense. So Thomas Eckert was the next one that was supposed to be accompanying Lincoln to be at the presidential box at Ford's Theater. And Thomas Eckert says, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Edwin Stanton has me doing other things. I'm busy. Check this out. Mr. Eckert, his job was to maintain the telegraph service. That night, after the shooting, the telegraph lines go down. Kind of like the cameras in the Epstein cells going down. You see these things replaying. This is what got me fascinated about the Lincoln, because I'm going to tell you a bunch of examples. And you're like, oh man, that's just like what happened here, or in the fake Trump assassination.
Yeah, that's what's interesting is that they still use the same techniques, the same suppression of communication, of the media, inside job stuff. It really is. It fits absolute patterns of stuff you see today.
Yeah. So Thomas Eckert declines Lincoln as well. So then the third string is Major Henry Rathbone. Major Henry Rathbone is my suspect as the guy that killed Lincoln.
Whoa!
Yeah. And it is heavily influenced. It is heavily influenced by David McGowan's work. David McGowan never specifically says Henry Rathbone is the guy, but he gives you plenty.
McGowan's chapter 11, so maybe it was in there, but he didn't actually say. Yeah, okay.
yeah, he gives you plenty of he feeds you these things. So it's not me being a genius or anything. It's just like it's right there. McGowan is like
Yeah,
serving it up.
McGowan's like that. McGowan gives you the dots, but he doesn't connect it. Like even if you read weird scenes inside the canyon, he never makes any conclusions for you, but he just lays it all out there and you can decide for yourself.
And I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
no, it's unassailable.
Yeah. Yeah. So my conclusion is that Henry Rathbone is the most likely assassin of Lincoln, and I'm going to give you my reasons as to why.
Okay, can I give a punchline
Absolutely.
about
Absolutely.
Rathbone?
Absolutely.
So I couldn't believe it that the guy who was in the box with Lincoln and got injured trying to save him, from what I could tell, later went bananas, tried to kill his kids, killed his wife, cut her up into pieces, I think, and ended up in an insane asylum forever. Like
You
that
missed one
guy
thing.
sounds like he was traumatized.
Well, that's what official people will say, and I think even Mr. Perloff goes with that. You missed one little. You got it mostly right, but when he killed his, it was his stepsister wife too. So at this
Ew.
point in time, it was a
Blech.
stepsister. It was a stepsister fiance. They weren't married or fiance. It
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah, right.
They weren't married at this point in time. They later got married, and a short time after the assassination, they moved to Germany. And in Germany, it was that Henry Rathbone killed his wife. He then took the knife and cut himself and told the cops, "Oh my God, someone killed my wife, and they tried to kill me too."
Wow.
And the authorities are like, "No, you cut yourself up," and they threw his ass in the loony bin. Keep that in mind, and you'll see why he's my suspect. So,
Okay.
in the Lincoln assassination, the official narrative tells us that the play is going on, and there's a part in the play where a joke is delivered to the crowd, and laughter erupts. And that is when we are told John Wilkes Booth is in the box, shoots Lincoln. He then, after he shoots him, according to Henry Rathbone's deposition, he yells, "Freedom!" He then,
Liberation Day.
it's so ridiculous. But he then, so Booth has a one-shot Derringer. I'm going to get into all these
Unbelievable.
things. A one-shot
Unbelievable.
Derringer and a 10-inch Bowie knife. Shoots Lincoln. He then, Rathbone, who was sitting in a little couch just slightly behind them. It was literally a 10 by 10 room, not a big area at all. And Rathbone gets up to approach Booth. Booth slashes at him, allegedly cuts him.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly cuts him. Mary Todd and stepsister
Claire,
fiance Clara Harris
yeah.
don't say anything at this point. They're in shock. Booth then climbs a little banister in front of the box, the presidential box, jumps down. Here's one of those parts that is not a consensus. Some people say when he jumps down about 10 feet down, he breaks his legs
Yeah.
or leg. I'm sorry.
That's
Some
in
people
that's in dispute.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Because so this is the official narrative. He jumps down. He then puts his knife up. A lot of people don't see any blood on the knife. They just see a shiny glistening on the knife. And according to some people,
Right.
he says, "Sic semper tyrannis, the South is avenged." And he sprints off stage, goes to the back, gets on a horse, and books it out of there. That, in a very, very short nutshell, is the official story of what happened and transpired in the box. I've written so many books. One of these books that I am almost done with is this one right here. We Saw Lincoln
Wow.
Shot
Yeah.
by Timothy S. Good. And it has hundreds of first-hand accounts. It even includes Henry Rathbone's depositions in there, which I want to get into because those are rather telling. and they further bolster my theory as to why I think he was the most likely assassin and shooter. So I just gave you the official narrative, super brief. Let's dig into it very deep.
I have to say, I absolutely, the little nuggets that you're blowing my mind with are just perfect because I can't imagine all those things happening where he, with a single shot, Derringer, and the doors were locked and all that kind of stuff that I never even thought of Rathbone as a suspect, but I was always totally mystified by his crazy behavior later when he was like this hero and shouldn't have really been traumatized by that. And then if Booth did not break his leg, two things. One is like if he did break his leg, I was always like, wow, I can't believe he got away under those circumstances that he had a
And he
broken leg. Like,
sprinted off stage
yeah, I
after
mean, I was
yelling that.
trying to think, like, can you mind over matter? But apparently, like the official narrative, it was really bad break. So because like it got all gangrenous and or whatever, it got all messed up. He was laid up. He couldn't get anywhere. But if he didn't break his leg, then he definitely got away.
Well,
Definitely.
That's not the whole thing of him jumping down onto the stage and breaking his leg is highly in dispute. Some people go with that.
Oh,
You'll hear many people go with that storyline, but then you'll hear other people say that he broke his leg during the getaway when his horse fell on him, which is more realistic. That sounds more reasonable and realistic.
right.
Because I've been to Fort. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. In April of 2025, so a few months back, was the 160th anniversary. I went to Washington, D.C. for the 160th anniversary. I went to Ford's Theater. I went to the Mary Surratt home. I visited all that because I wanted to absorb it. If I'm going to be a Lincoln assassination researcher, I have to go through these sites. I have to absorb it. And sitting there at Ford's Theater, I sat across the box, and I'm looking down. I'm 43. I could make the goddamn jump.
Oh, you
down
could
onto the stage.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you so much. Could you leave the door open,
please? And we are told that John Wilkes Booth was, around 26, in his prime, very athletic.
Leave the door open, please. Thank you so
much.
And sorry,
it's very possible that he could have made that jump super easily. So those are the two main thoughts, that he either broke his leg when he jumped down, or he broke his leg later on during the getaway when his horse fell up on him.
Okay, so you think he definitely broke his leg?
Because I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I will just tell you why that caught my mind.
Real quick.
Yeah, finish.
So one of the doctors that treated him, Dr. Samuel Mudd, in his statement, he said he didn't think the injury was that very serious.
And
so there's three possibilities now. He either breaks his leg when he jumps, or he broke his leg in the getaway, or he just had a sprain.
Okay. But this is the thing. So I know in McGowan's stuff, and I don't know about your opinion, but I would guess it's closer to McGowan's than Perloff's in this, that that Booth was identified posthumously. His body was identified. So Perloff thinks it was, I believe, and you are definitely shaking your head. No, it was not.
Hell no. And me and Perloff discussed this on our show.
I want to hear about it, but the only thing that would make me think that he got away would be if he actually did not break his leg, in which case I would be confident that he got away. But the whole time I'm thinking, with a leg like that, he's lucky he got as far as he did. But if it wasn't that bad, that's another one. Okay, what are you showing me? It says John Wilkes Booth by W.C. Jameson. Beyond the Grave.
W.C. Jameson, I tried to get him on my show, but I think he got cancer and he kind of he didn't want to do a show. Completely understandable. We were going to be it would have been an amazing show to have. W.C. Jameson is a descendant of John Wilkes Booth. And he talks about
a descendant or a relative. Did John Wilkes Booth have children?
I'm sorry, relative.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Sorry, am I bad?
No, you're good. So he talks about how growing up he heard stories of John Wilkes Booth, but they weren't supposed to talk about it. It was only like family stories that he had gotten away, because they really didn't tell anyone else outside of the family because they would have been rebuked, viewed in shame. Oh, your descendant killed Lincoln, get out of here, So they kept it was like family stories. And W.C. Jameson goes through several scenarios as to how Booth could have gotten away, and he lays a very convincing argument. And the reason I read this book is because it was in one of the books that David McGowan suggested. It was part of his suggested reading, and so I think he did get away.
Okay.
I think it's more likely, like I said, and I think maybe the whole he shot him and all the official story about what happened at Ford's Theater was just distractions, let's distract you, blah blah blah, and it was an
Right.
inside job with Henry
Right.
Rathbone being the kid.
Right.
So that's where I'm with it.
Well, that is so similar to stuff that happens now, because I'm thinking about the Charlie Kirk thing, and I think everything's fake. I do not think that's fake. Like, I really looked at it and I just don't think that's fake. I think it's real. But they like arrested a couple of people right away, and then they said they weren't them. And I mean, to me, I immediately thought, oh, it was definitely like hardcore sharpshooter, and they were just making sure that guy could get away. And then now they have a patsy. So I don't know if got activity in my house, noisy activity. I'm going to make sure that gets edited out. Anyway, so but they could, in this case, there seemed to be a lot of moving parts to distract and distort the true picture. But there's just stuff going on in the Ford Theater that cannot be explained by the lone nut thing. And everybody thinks it's a lone nut, but even the official narrative, they killed so many people. They hanged so many people for this conspiracy. So
yeah, and I feel
what were their roles in this conspiracy if I think Booth was the only guy on the spot?
I think there were patsies. That's what I've come to believe.
Yeah.
And because so I know we don't have too much time, because I could spend. I've got so much.
Got another hour.
Yeah, I've got so much information. I probably got a 10-hour book.
You should do it.
I just don't know where to start. That's my issue. We'll see. But I wanted to cover the Rathbone angle, and I want to cover the attack on the Seward Mansion. I think that was completely
great. Let's do that. Yeah, get real deep into that, and then we'll have a part 2.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a handwritten thing written by Mrs. who?
Lincoln.
Oh, Mrs. Lincoln. What does it say?
That letterhead, yes, that letterhead is on White House stationery by Mary Todd Lincoln, requesting John F. Parker to be the security guard outside the box.
I was wondering if Mary Todd Lincoln was in on it, because she was a nut job and she probably hated Lincoln.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
That's my thoughts on it. So
totally.
Leading up to the box at Ford's Theater, there should have been a guard stationed just outside the door. That guard was John F. Parker, handpicked by Mary Todd Lincoln.
Crazy.
It gets better, but wait, it gets a lot better, Monica. Your mind is going to get blown.
Wow.
John F. Parker. Okay, who the hell is John F. Parker? John F. Parker was a member of the Metropolitan Police. He was the most demerited cop on the entire force. And this is the guy Mary Todd Lincoln chooses to be there. It gets better. He had been written up for insolent language, for picking up prostitutes while on the job. Just a total
falling asleep on the job, being drunk on the job. I mean, those are things that should get fired, not promoted.
Yes. So where was this John F. Parker when he should have stopped John Wilkes Booth from going into the box. Oh, he was downstairs getting drunk, falling asleep. This guy had a history of doing this, and this is the guy that was specifically chosen by Mary Todd Lincoln. Explain that to me.
I mean, how did she
Official
even know of
narratives.
this guy's existence?
That's a question that Otto Eisenschimmel asks. He goes, was he related to Mary Todd Lincoln? Was he having relations with Mary
Somebody
Todd
just
Lincoln?
whispered in her ear. Who are the conspirators? I mean, that's plausible.
So the other interesting thing is when John F. Parker the next day shows up, he shows up with a hooker at his side to arrest her because he was known to arrest hookers that would not provide him free services.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He would charge them
like Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah. So he shows up the next day still awful. Drunk with a prostitute at his side, and he should have been tried. He should have been reprimanded. Instead, he gets promoted later on, and nothing ever comes out of it. That is huge. So people that stick with the official narrative, they have a hard time explaining that one. So then let's move on to the one-shot Derringer gun. John Wilkes Booth. So there's people would like to say John Wilkes Booth was like the Brad Pitt of the area. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. His brother Edwin Booth was a lot more famous than John Wilkes Booth. That's not to say John Wilkes Booth was not famous. He was well known, and he was making pretty good money. He was making to the equivalent of $300,000 a year in today's money. So he had money. At this point in time, the 6-shot revolver was in existence. So John Wilkes Booth decides to just go with a one-shot Derringer, a completely inaccurate gun, something that you need to be pretty much within skin contact range to get a sure shot. This is what he chose, having all these weapons at his disposal.
Yeah, in a town that was crawling with military just as the war was ending. People were probably rushing back and armed to the teeth. That's what happens after a war. There's just more guns than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah. And so you have that angle. So I kind of bypassed something at the very beginning. The plot took place on the 14th of, it was a Friday the 14th, a Good Friday, a ritual sacrifice. It took place on Good Friday. And even the official narrative guys will say that John Wilkes Booth, his plot to assassinate Lincoln only came about Friday morning.
I know. That is nuts.
And so prior to this, a few months prior to this, John Wilkes Booth was recruiting his ragtag band of co-conspirators. And allegedly they were meeting at the boarding house with Mary Surratt. And he had recruited even Mary Surratt's son, John Surratt Jr. He was second in command in the conspiracy. But the conspiracy prior to Friday, the 14th of April, was to kidnap Lincoln. Lincoln was known to take long walks in the park and have no security and blah, blah, blah. So the original plot was to kidnap him. This is important because when the plan came on Friday to assassinate Lincoln, really the only other co-conspirators that went along with John Wilkes Booth was Lewis Payne Powell, a young 20-year-old that was from the South, good-looking,
gorgeous
lad.
Oh my god!
And then George Atzerodt, a little fat, chubby German immigrant. So the plot was
Surratt, the son Surratt.
No.
Okay.
It was George Atzerodt that was so this is, I don't believe any of this, but according to the official narrative, John Wilkes Booth said he wanted to kill Lincoln. He wanted the big prize to himself. And at the same time, around 10:15 at night, They were all to strike at the same time, kind of like all the planes hitting the towers at the same simultaneous attacks on 9/11. This was to produce mass pandemonium, chaos in DC. So at the same time that Lincoln was to kill, or I'm sorry, that Booth was to kill Lincoln, Lewis Payne Powell was to go to the Seward Mansion, which was right there by the White House, right there on Lafayette Park. And he was to kill Secretary of State William Seward. And at the same time, George Atzerodt, the little immigrant dude, chubby dude, he was supposed to kill Vice President Johnson. There are other people that will say that Ulysses S. Grant was also due to get killed, and Edwin Stanton. But as with all the reading I've done on the subject, it seems like they throw their names in there so that you can't view them as suspects.
Right.
Oh, how could I be involved? I almost got killed that night.
Right.
But there's no evidence for any of those claims.
Right.
None. And so you'll hear historians, oh yeah, they wanted to kill these guys and these. Show me the evidence. Prove it. There is none. It's conjecture by these people to make it sound like it was some mass plot. And there's nothing to back any of those claims up. So that's the part that a lot of people, when they hear Lincoln assassination, don't even realize that it was simultaneous attacks around 10:15 that Friday night. And the reason we don't get taught these things is because it's complete nonsense. So in reality, if you wanted to hang co-conspirators, if we go off of the official narrative, really, it should have been Booth, Lewis Payne Powell, and George Atzerodt. The rest, really, innocent blood was shed, and they had zero to do with it, including Mary Surratt, the owner of that boarding house. Now, John Surratt Jr. was in New York at this time, and he's got a fascinating story. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I thought there was a kidnapping plot, though.
That was the kidnapping plot prior to the assassination plot.
Oh, okay,
and all these people, so they were hung because of the assassination. So if you wanted to arrest these guys, I think they're all patsies, in my opinion.
Right.
But if at worst they were guilty of conspiring to kidnap, not murder. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can view them as guilty if you want, if whatever, but they should not have been tried for murder. They should have been tried for a kidnapping plot. And a lot of people lose sight of that.
Right.
Yeah. So I probably should have started with that because people don't even realize that there was other co-conspirators. 7 ended up being hung, and then a few others ended up getting sent to a Florida prison down in the Dry Tortugas off of the Florida Keys.
Yes, including Spangler, the guy who just held the horse.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, could you hold my horse for a second? He's like, sure, whatever. And Booth runs out, gets on the horse, and they send Spangler to the gulag.
Yeah. The interesting one is John Surratt Jr. He was in New York at the time, and when he heard that Lincoln, when Wilkes Booth discussed of killing Lincoln, a lot of these co-conspirators said, no, man, I was cool with kidnapping the guy. I don't want to kill anyone. And they backed off. This is why it's so wrong that they were even hung. And John Surratt Jr. was one of these guys. When he found out that Booth wanted to kill Lincoln, he was like, nah, dude, I was cool with kidnapping. I don't want nothing to do with this. So when the assassination took place and John Surratt Jr. found out about that they had killed Lincoln, he quickly went to Canada. From Canada, he went to Liverpool, England. From Liverpool, England, he made it to the Vatican, where he became a papal zouave, a pope bodyguard. It gets better. Someone in the Vatican recognized John Surratt Jr. from Maryland and reported him. What? And the Vatican offered to return him. And the government said, it's all good. We don't really care. They weren't really interested.
Let bygones be bygones.
John Surratt Jr. like, damn, man, they're onto me. So he left the Vatican and went to Alexandria, Egypt. And eventually they got arrested. He got arrested, and then they brought him over here. And even the journey back to America for the trial, this was in 1867, a couple years removed. The war is already completely over. So one of the things that the co-conspirators, alleged co-conspirators, had their fates were sealed because they were going to be tried under a military tribunal. The judges were handpicked. The outcome was already picked. This is what a lot of people forget. And so the reason why in 1867, when John Surratt Jr. was still on the lam and they finally got to him, there was really no pressure to get him back, was because he was going to be tried in civil trial. He was going to be tried as a civilian, not under military tribunal. And so now they couldn't control the outcome nearly as much as they had before.
So similar to what they do today. And now I realize why some of these mass shootings are on, like there was one in the actual Navy Yard, which was complete bullshit. There are shootings on military bases, which will never see a court. And then you have so many of these people kill themselves, or like the mass shooters or whatever, patsies, blah, 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 kill themselves or take a plea bargain, which I personally would deem unconstitutional, or at least against the Declaration of Independence, the inalienable rights. And also they'll be charged with a federal crime when really murder is a state crime. Murder is not something that's in the Constitution. It's one of the police powers that goes to the states. So all this like layering of crimes, making things federal and stuff, then the feds take over, and then you don't have anybody watching the watchers. You can control how that comes out. And in this case, when they decided that all these people should be tried by military tribunal, which is so unconstitutional. I mean, Mary Surratt was not in the military. Neither was Lincoln.
No one should. They were all civilians at this point.
And it was not the military.
War was over.
It wasn't a military installment. Lincoln is not, commander-in-chief only in time, when called upon, only in time of war. And it's absolutely outrageous. And they could rig it that way.
Yeah, and you'll hear official narrative historians say like, yeah, some people feel bad for Mary Surratt, but I'm glad she got the gallows. I'm like, really? You realize that it was completely unconstitutional, the military tribunals that they were assigned, and it was completely rigged. So just real quick with John Surratt Jr., he eventually gets brought up. He goes to trial in 1867, and he gets acquitted 8-4. So think about that real quick. John Surratt Jr. was the second in command of the conspiracy. Second in command. And under civil rules, he's acquitted 8-4.
Well, his mother is hanged.
Yes, and she was way lesser. Wow. You see what I'm trying to get at? Like, this is a point that a lot of people will just gloss over and just completely no big deal. Who cares?
And do you remember that I think a couple of people tried to get to Andrew Johnson saying, give clemency. Oh, I know what it was. During Mary Surratt's trial, the tribunal or the jurors or whatever it was were told that she would get clemency if they came back with a conviction. Maybe McGowan didn't have that detail, or you haven't come across it. But
I've came across it,
and it made Johnson infuriated because he never got the note. And anyway.
I think Johnson was involved.
I know that was a difference between Perloff and McGowan for sure. Is that y'all thought Johnson was involved? Well, I
think Johnson was involved.
Your vice president is probably involved.
Because
otherwise he's going to conduct
LBJ and JFK,
and Bush and Reagan.
Yeah. And so Edwin Stanton
otherwise you would conduct a real investigation. They have to make sure that you are implicated in some way so that you don't.
Yeah. And so Lincoln at this point in time, he's been mythologized over the decades and now over a century. I'm not saying he was a terrible guy, the most evil guy, whatever, but he was also not the saintly figure that has been made out to be. You know, like they have statues of him, and he was called a magnanimous figure, a Christ-like figure. After this point in time, people forget that under Lincoln, habeas corpus was suspended. A lot of people's civil liberties were getting eroded, and people within his own party did not like him. Now, people will say, well, why would his own people from the radical Republicans, why would they kill him? If your theory is right, because some people will try to portray that the assassination was a Confederate Southern plot, but there's no evidence for that. That's complete and utter lunacy to go that way. It made sense that his own party that didn't like him would get rid of him, because one of the reasons why was Lincoln really didn't want to be hard on the South as far as Reconstruction. He didn't really want to penalize them.
Right.
You know, and members of his own party were like, no, dude, they wanted to secede. Let's hit them with everything we can. And Lincoln didn't want any part of that. So that's a damn good reason why his own people would want to get rid of him. I know you didn't ask like what would be the motive, but I just thought it'd be interesting for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, if your theory is right, why would it happen? That's a damn good reason right there that I just gave you. But and like I said, there's just so much information.
So much. I know it's hard. That's what I was saying to you before the show. It's like there's so much information. It's hard for me to even think of it in an orderly fashion, because
we might have to do a part 2.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do a part 2. Absolutely, that would be great. Yeah,
because right now I still want to cover the Ford
the Seward
Theater
assassination.
Well, the Ford Theater assassination with Lincoln in the box and whatnot. There's still more to cover there.
There's so much more to cover. Yeah. Let's do that, and then we'll do absolutely. We can do as many parts as you want. Maybe this can be the genesis of your actual book.
Yeah, I could get the transcriptions and then turn it into a book.
No, you got it.
So
go ahead.
So now that we've, I let you know that the actual assassination didn't take place until that Friday morning. Let's use our thinking caps now. Let's use critical thinking.
I love that.
And destroy the silliness of the official narrative. So here you have, it's not very different than the 9/11 official nonsense, where you have some guys, some cavemen, illiterate cavemen, concocting this elaborate plot on 9/11,
whipping out almost impossible maneuvers on an airplane,
in the plane, and then attacking when the government is doing war games at the same time to confuse NORAD. It's the same thing that we have here as well, because so Booth didn't have days or weeks or months to plan out this assassination. He just said, oh shit, I'm gonna wake up Friday. Damn, I want to kill Lincoln.
That's the official narrative, right?
That's the official narrative.
That is the craziest part, because of all the things that happened inside that theater that could not possibly have been put in place in that time frame.
Yeah, so we already discussed John Parker should have been the armed guard guarding the presidential suite. And he wasn't there. He decided to get good and drunk, as he normally did, and he was handpicked by Mary Todd Lincoln, okay? And for whatever reason, that official story guys, people that stick with the official narrative, they haven't been able to explain. John Wilkes Booth goes at it with a one-shot derringer. As you stated, this was a huge deal. There was plenty of ex-military dudes. You had to assume many people in that theater were armed.
Right.
And Booth is going to go at it with a one-shot derringer.
Yeah, like the prisoner, that was a weird detail in the McGowan thing. Some of the people who were in jail with like leather masks over their heads and
Leather
hands
hoods, yeah.
and feet shackled were kept their arms, which of course, like the idea is so they could suicide or maybe, get killed while trying to escape or whatever. But the fact that disarming a guy was just like borderline impossible, these guys had to have been locked and loaded all over the place.
Yeah, 100%. And like I just stated, the six shooter revolver, it already existed. But he chooses a single shot Derringer, completely inaccurate. And it's amazing to me that official people just will tell you that part of the story with a straight face, and it's like it doesn't register. I'm like, think about it. This is what I mean. Now let's go through the official story. I want to paint the picture. I want you to visualize it. Okay, so now we're Booth. We're going up. Oh wow, no guard here. What if that guard would have been there? Now you got to either stab the son of a bitch or you got to use your one shot. But oh man, wow, score. No guard here. He gets into the presidential box, and it's a little box. I was there. I seen it. And no one notices Booth slip in there? According to Henry Rathbone's deposition, one of 3 depositions, the door was never closed. So Booth just walks in. Official narrative tells us that then John Wilkes Booth, with no one seeing him, it's a 10 by 10 room, no one seeing him, like a cartoon, spy versus spy. He's gonna grab a plank, and he wedges the door shut. So think about it. Let's use our thinking skills. Now you got to put your gun and your knife in your pocket. How are you going to wedge a door if you're holding your weapons?
And where did you get the plank?
Official narrative people will say that earlier on in the day, because John Wilkes, there's no evidence to this. There's no evidence. This is conjecture. This is them saying this so that their story makes sense. But there's no evidence for these claims.
As Tucker Carlson says, well, it happened, therefore it must have happened.
Yeah.
That's his 9/11 thing.
So, official narrative storytellers of the myth will say that John Wilkes Booth was everyone in Fort Theater knew him, so he could just walk his way in and out, go backstage, do whatever he's pleased. And so at some point before several hours before Lincoln showed up, now he found the plank. He already had this planned, apparently, with his one-shot Derringer. He already knew that he wasn't going to have any issues. He made a plank. He also,
because the plank was like sanded or something. Like it wasn't just he found it on the ground. Like I think there was something
that's in dispute as well.
Okay,
some people will say it's a piece of wood that fit the door wedge. Other people will say it was like a music stand that was of the right length. So this is what I mean. There's so many aspects that are not even, there's no consensus on it. Other people will say it was this, it was that. And so those are the 2 options. It could have been a piece of plank or a music stand. The other thing is that Booth came in earlier, not only for the plank, but he bore a hole. Allegedly, he bore a hole so that it was a peephole so he could see who's in there. Freaking... In none of Lincoln's security-oriented entourage, no one noticed, wow, that's weird. There's a freaking wedge here. There's a hole that's been bored in here. So a peephole in there. No one caught this, I guess. And so apparently Booth through the peephole saw, like, oh yeah, it's only Henry Rathbone, Clara Harris, Mary Todd Lincoln, and Lincoln. I'm good. I'm
because he expected Grant to be there, right? Like everybody knew Grant was going to be there. So what a bold move! Like I'm bringing one bullet to to this party with the president and the general and their wives. So
and even Thomas Eckert
going to fight.
even Thomas Eckert, he could have been there too. The 6'4" guy,
Yeah.
almost as big as Lincoln, two big dudes
Yeah.
against
Because
little tiny
that
Booth.
Derringer also has a very short barrel. So you would have to get
It's
right up.
it's literally the size of the palm of your hand, smaller than the palm of your hand. It's like a
Yeah,
toy
it's
gun.
not you're
It
not
does
gonna
have,
have much accuracy though.
and it is a 44 round, so caliber round. So it's a good size round, but it's completely inaccurate. You have to be like really buttered up close. So, anyways, back to our story. So in the box, let's paint the scene inside the presidential box. You have Lincoln next to the wall, left hand wall, kind of like I think I'm coming across right there, right? This is my left hand wall right here, left ear, left wall. To his right is Mary Todd Lincoln. To her right is Clara Harris. And slightly behind Mary Todd Lincoln and Clara Harris, in a small little couch, slightly behind them, not too far, is Henry Rathbone, my suspect. He is a guy who's just chilling, a little suspect there. And so that's
Where's the door in
the
relation to
door is
Lincoln?
right here, right by
So
Lincoln. So as soon as Booth comes in that door, Lincoln is right there.
So wait, there are 3 people it's Lincoln, Mary, and Claire, and then Henry's right behind them, a little bit behind them.
So
Is the door behind Lincoln or to the left of Lincoln or to the right?
so the box is a presidential suite that sometimes they would put a partition. So for a party or two here, party or two there. But for this occasion, there was no partition. And so there's actually 2 doors that lead into the presidential box.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And when you look at the box, it's not a perfect rectangle either. So, it's kind of contorted. It almost looks like the state of Utah is probably
Okay.
a better version of it. And then, if you look at Utah and you were, to twist it, Lincoln was sitting in the state of Utah, that little tiny little square piece.
Yep.
And then everyone else is in the thicker part. That's probably the best analogy and you can look up, just put in Ford's Theater presidential box so you can see what I'm talking about. So when Booth comes in to the box, we are told he wedges the door shut. Okay, so what did he do with his gun and knife? He had to put them in his pocket. He had to put them somewhere. You have to imagine that takes a few seconds to do, to wedge this, and no one notices a thing. He then goes up to Lincoln. Lincoln turns his head. So here's the left wall. This is what official historians people say. Lincoln turns his head to the left, and that's when Booth fires his round, allegedly. So in other words, Lincoln turned his head at just the wrong moment. Unlike
Trump, right?
Unlike Trump, who turned his head at just the right moment.
July 13th, 2024. Why we don't, that isn't like a date etched in people's mind. That was really serious.
And it kind of goes in line with Trump real quick, where remember when he was talking about John McCain, I like my heroes that don't get caught or don't get captured. Like, I'm better than you. And so in a way, he's kind of, that whole assassination is kind of throwing a dig at Lincoln. Like, Lincoln turns his head. He's like, you loser, you died.
I'm the greatest president of all time. I would not be surprised. They definitely play into that weird.
And that obviously that's one of my completely original takes.
Yeah, it's
as soon as I heard that from the Trump assassination, I'm like, oh man, that's Lincoln all over right there. And so he shoots Lincoln allegedly through the left ear, and the ball gets lodged beneath his right eyeball. He slumps over, and that's when he engages in this alleged grappling match with Rathbone, and then I already went over the rest of the story. Henry Rathbone gave an initial statement in 1865. He then gave an official deposition for the conspirators trial in 1865. He then gave a third deposition in 1867 for the John Surratt Jr. trial. This is McGowan's finding. Henry Rathbone in all three depositions essentially says the same thing, word for word, verbatim. What does that tell you?
It's a script.
It's a script. Why would you be reciting a script?
Yeah, right. If you just remember it.
You're just remembering. You're an actor.
Right.
You're an actor. You're memorizing your script. So this whole time we're told that John Wilkes Booth is the actor.
Yeah.
Henry Rathbone, in my opinion, is the actor. And you can. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the box like you told me to. I'm looking that up and a bunch of different angles. And yeah, that isn't the biggest jump I've ever seen. Like I think I could make that.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. It's not big.
But I see what you're saying about the door, and it's a tiny. 10 by 10. I don't think it's even that big. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's
seem
not.
that big.
It's
There's
not
no
very.
way you. And why didn't the women testify?
And no one noticed him in there. This is what I mean by let's think about.
You would be able to hear him breathing in there.
And this is what I mean. Like, this is what we are told as the official narrative. But let's think about it. Is this even plausible? Is this realistic? In my opinion, no. And in this book that I showed you, where there's over 100 eyewitness accounts, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, I definitely saw this." They're so wildly inaccurate, and some of them seem completely staged and manufactured eyewitness accounts. You can also get Henry Rathbone's accounts.
Is his, because I was wondering, maybe he killed his wife because she knew she saw him. If he were the one, he did kill her. Was there ever a witness account from Mary or Claire?
Claire Harris made a couple of accounts. I have a newspaper clipping, but it doesn't even seem like she wrote it. It almost seems like the newspapers wrote the article saying that she wrote it. And
unless it was a court of law with her testifying, why wouldn't she testify?
So in the McGowan book that I voiced over, he does read the Claire Harris statement, and he also reads all three depositions from Henry Rathbone. And so the only difference between the Henry Rathbone, the initial statement, and the other two depositions is that in the initial one, he wrote it in the third person. In the second and third, he went from the third person to the first person. That's the only thing that changed. The Clara Harris statement is eerily similar to Henry Rathbone's account, because when he talks about Booth lunging at him and cutting him up, he goes, Henry Rathbone says he received the gash from the shoulder down to the elbow. And he had some severe blood loss.
Oh.
And he has a specific way of characterizing. I should have it memorized in my head, but I don't. And Clara Harris says the same damn thing. Like, she can't even use her own damn words to discuss it. Right. She's using it. And that was her own statement. Mary Todd Lincoln never says anything about it. Wow. So isn't it interesting that here you have the witnesses, the primary witnesses to Lincoln getting killed, and they weren't asked to give any depositions? Super weird. So the only sound that was ever made was after John Wilkes Booth gets on that stage, allegedly, and sprints away after yelling "Sic Semper Tyrannis, the South is avenged," allegedly. That's when Mary Todd Lincoln screams, no. Henry Rathbone says, "Get that man or stop that man." So these guys are watching all this. They allow Booth to say his piece, performative piece. And then after he says it and runs, that's when I'm going to say, "Stop that man. Get the hell out of here." And Mary Todd Lincoln, that's when she finally screams. Clara Harris never does anything. Apparently she was in shock, blah, blah, blah. Mary Todd Lincoln, as we stated before, she eventually gets turned into the loony bin by none other than their son, Robert Todd Lincoln, who is another sketchy guy in the whole affair. There's so much to it, man. I get excited with this because there's so many little things. But Mary Todd Lincoln was the one that did the that got the security guard John F. Parker, and she ordered him, and then doesn't say anything. So then people are going to say, why would Mary Todd Lincoln
Yes.
allow her husband to get killed? Let me give you my thoughts on that. There were rumors that Lincoln was perhaps gay. I haven't been able to substantiate it, but if he was gay, that
Oh my
falls in
gosh.
line.
Don't
That
they
falls
call it
in
the,
line with my theory.
the
Yes,
log cabin societies, like the
Josh.
Republicans?
So
And he was born in
uh,
the log cabin. Anyway, go
yeah,
ahead.
Abraham Lincoln had his best friend was Joshua Fry Speed,
Yeah.
and they slept in the same bed many times. Official people that say Lincoln was not gay, and they get mad, they get angry. How dare you insinuate that? Lincoln embodied the American man, and blah blah blah. I don't have an agenda. I don't care if he was gay or not, but it would definitely fall in line with my theory as to why Mary Todd Lincoln probably didn't give a shit because he was gay. And so there were also rumors in the W.C. Jameson book that she was having relations with the groundskeeper. So I say this because I think people, when they think about relationships, especially from 100 years ago, they have this heavenly image that they were good. They didn't cheat on each other. They were friendly. How dare you insinuate these things? But they were the same people as us today. They had the same issues, same problems. So you have to get out of that mindset for, to be able to absorb a lot of these things. And so, yeah, that's my theory on, on Henry Rathbone being a suspect. He repeats his script several times. He was back there, and then later on, he goes and kills his wife, chops himself up to make it look like he was attacked. What happened in the box? He allegedly got attacked by John Wilkes Booth. Allegedly. How do we not know that he cut himself up during this process?
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
it wouldn't be the last time anyway. So were there any other sketchy details in the theater itself? I know, there was no guard. Their weird plank, which was put there in advance. He only had a single shot weapon, which makes no sense, especially if he thought Grant was going to be there, or a good bodyguard, or any bodyguard at all. And what was his escape plan? I guess to jump
to
out,
jump
because
down.
he put the plank on the. Why would he even put the plank on the thing?
Yeah. He planned the plank, but that was his escape route to jump down.
Yeah, that was his escape. And the
It's
plank
ridiculous.
was for what? To keep people from. See, it could have been that Rathbone put the plank up there because they knew
to secure the scene and make sure everything
and so that
is
for sure
up.
Lincoln died. Give him a chance to make sure he died.
Yeah, that's 100%. Now, in these eyewitness, statements from the people that were at Ford's Theater,
cool.
One of the cool things that I picked up on, it's my own little observation, was how many times you hear a lot of these people say they were there and they're like, at first I thought it was part of the play.
Yep, I've heard that.
What does that tell you? They thought it was fake.
That it looked fake. Yes.
It was performative. I'm like, damn, that's freaking massive. It's
my friend on January 6th said that about the Ashley Babbitt thing. She said some guys came running out basically the minute the doors opened, to the Capitol or whatever, trying to convince her that someone got shot in there. And she said, I didn't believe it. The guy said, I got video. I said, tell it to the Marines. And so she knew right away. And she's not a schizo. She just was like, this guy's full of shit. I'm from the Bronx. I can smell that.
Yeah.
And so you can tell.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. And just to wrap it up, one of the other fascinating things is that after Lincoln was shot, Secretary of War Edwin Stanton and Assistant Secretary of War Thomas Eckert go first to the Seward home.
Yes.
Which
so
is weird.
If you
Why
didn't
you go to the Lincoln home?
Let's talk about this. If you can stay on, maybe
I can stay.
Yeah, let's go to the top of the hour. But yes, so right, they went to the Seward home. Yeah, why?
You tell me. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
were super close to Lincoln. Like he had stopped by there on the way to the theater. He wanted Eckert to come with him, and Sam
And,
wouldn't let
the
him.
and the Seward home was right there in Lafayette Park, right by the White House. Ford's Theater, maybe a 30-minute walk, maybe 20-minute walk. It's not very far. It's all in that DC little area, super close. So yeah, and like I said, the telegraph lines went down. This was Thomas Eckert's. The reason he declined Lincoln's invitation to be there was because he was busy and the telegraph lines go down. Official narrative guys don't really have an answer for that. That's super weird. And then when they start doing the manhunt after the telegraph lines are established or whatever, Booth allegedly makes his escape through the Navy Yard Bridge. The Navy Yard Bridge at this time was still under lockdown. Silas Cobb was the guard that was supposed to be guarding the bridge, and he lets Booth go over. He lets Davy Harold, another co-conspirator, cross. He allows them, even though it was allegedly under lockdown. Edwin Stanton's manhunt for him goes north, goes east, goes south, everywhere but the most likely escape route, which was the Navy Yard Bridge.
I'm looking. I pulled the map up.
Yeah, and it allegedly gives Booth more time for his escape. And I guess if you want to go to the top of the hour, I can go over the details of the escape and why it is pretty possible why he did in fact escape.
Yeah.
So during his getaway, we are told it was a 12-day hunt, and he's on the lam with Davy Harold. Davy Harold, depending on the source, was a friend of his that was clever, knew how to traverse the backwoods and all this stuff. Other people will say he had the mind of a 13-year-old, 12-year-old boy. Like he was an adult, but mentally he was a little slow. He was one of the ones that was hung as well. So if he really was kind of handicapped, that's kind of messed up as well.
Oh yeah.
But
that's not unheard of.
But here's the funny thing is, after Booth gets on his horse behind Ford's Theater and he hauls butt out of Dodge, he's hauling butt, and he meets up with Davy Harold about 8 miles away. How in the living hell, with no GPS, in the dead of night, are you going to rendezvous with your homie?
Yeah.
Official narrative people will tell you that with a straight face and no big deal. It's wild. And so they make their way out, and I don't believe any of it. So supposedly John Wilkes Booth had his own diary. This is an interesting aspect to it. He was using it was like a little calendar, little memo. It wasn't like a formal diary. And this is where he was writing. It is in this diary that he writes that he broke his leg after he jumps down from the box. So that's where people get the account. Because most people in the theater.
Oh, interesting.
No, yeah. It gets even better about the Booth diary.
Yeah.
The Booth diary, let me see what's the best way to put it. So the official story tells us that they go off on this little escape, and they eventually go to the Garrett barn.
Yeah.
And the Garrett family allows them to stay in this tobacco barn that they have in the farm. And they don't really know what's going on, but they were Southern sympathizers, and so they allow John Wilkes Booth and Davy Harold to stay there. This tobacco barn, being a tobacco barn, had slats through it so that it would allow airflow to go in, for the tobacco. We are told that on the 12th day, the Union is after him, hot on the chase. They're following leads, allegedly. There's a big bounty for them, $50,000, especially
Wow.
back then was a lot of money. And so Lafayette Baker was one of the high-ranking police officers under Edwin Stanton. Lafayette Baker is a super interesting character, super shady. He would do things like if he was doing them today, like what the hell? This is the United States. Like he would, if he wanted to arrest you, you looked at him bad, he would arrest you. He invented no knock
Wow.
midnight raids on homes. Like
Wow.
if he suspected of you of being guilty, no warrant needed. We're just gonna crash your house at midnight when you're dead asleep. He was hardcore. Lafayette Baker was. Lafayette Baker gets his posse. They head over to the Garrett barn, and we they then get in a shootout with John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth has his allegedly broken leg. He can only, he's on his crutches, talking smack from the barn. Davy Harold says, "Oh man, I don't want any more of this." He asks if he can get let out the barn, and the Union soldier guy says, "Yeah, we'll put your hands up, no weapons, and we'll let you come out." Davy Harold gets out, and Wilkes Booth is still in the barn. They're negotiating him. Allegedly, he tells them, "Fight me like a man. I'll fight every single one of you one by one." With his broken leg.
Right.
And
he must have been, if he really did have a broken leg, and it sounds like you think he did. Reports were, now you said Mudd said it wasn't that bad, but there were other reports that it was terrible. And of course, I would think after a week and a half, it would be bad.
It's hurting, and he's probably going delirious and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're told that at some point, so there's another interesting character. This is what maybe down when you edit it, you could put these guys' images on the screen so people can follow along pretty good. But Boston Corbett is the guy that allegedly shoots John Wilkes Booth. The story goes that John Wilkes Booth points his gun at one of the Union guys outside. Boston Corbett sees it through the slats and shoots him through the neck. Boom. John Wilkes Booth goes down, and they've already, since John Wilkes Booth hasn't wanted to come out, they start lighting the barn on fire. They're trying to smoke him out, burn him out. Kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, think about the cops doing that today. Oh yeah, this guy's not coming out. We're just gonna burn it down and flush him out like a rat. And so they get Booth out of the barn. He's in critical shape. He's breathing laboriously, slowly dying. It's a mortal wound through the neck, obviously.
That's
and
Boston Corbett
is the guy. Yeah. Boston Corbett is the guy credited with killing him. Here's Boston Corbett. Boston Corbett was known as the glory to God man. He was insane, literally a crazy dude. At one point, after having a menage a trois with a couple of prostitutes, he felt so guilty that he cut off his junk.
Whoa! I saw someone say he like castrated himself. I'm like, why would you do that? Wow,
that's Boston Corbett.
Wow, it says that kind of like if your hand makes you steal, cut it off.
Yeah, so the official narrative tells us that that's when Booth was killed. His body then gets put on a boat. It gets identified by people, some people that claim they knew Booth in real life. They say that the one of the hands, this adds more to the mystery, whether he was positively identified. One of the hands had JWB initialed on, which is what John Wilkes Booth had. That's Lafayette Baker. That's my dog.
Baker.
You can see the evil and the scheminess in his eyes.
Nutcase, yeah.
Yeah. I love this guy. He's a scumbag, but I love him. He's an interesting guy because he later writes this book called The Secret, the History of the Secret Service.
Yes, I wondered about that.
That's Lafayette Baker. He wrote it, and he gives a lot of breadcrumbs to the Booth. What happened to the Booth legacy, and a lot of sketchy stuff comes out. And later on, Lafayette Baker dies, and when they exhume his body or whatever, they found that he had arsenic poisoning. So
Oh,
they took his ass out. Even prior to them killing him, at one point he's like in public and he was wearing a top hat, and he had 2 shots. Boom, they tried to shoot him in the head. So they were trying to kill him. So
wow.
Lafayette Baker, he is definitely a scumbag. He knew more about these stuff, but I think later on he's like, damn, man, they're after me. In his book, he's talking about a secret cabal.
Really?
Yeah.
When it said Secret Service, I thought, wow, it's always an inside job. The Secret Service is always in on it. Always. That's what it's there for.
I get
to keep you in line if you're the president.
Yeah, from what I've seen of Lafayette Baker, it's definitely scummy guy, but maybe because of the threats to his life, he's like, shit, man. I'm gonna start spilling some beans, man.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. And so we are told that the body is then brought over, and positively official narrative will tell you, that he was identified.
Right.
And Mr. Perloff says that, and I respectfully disagree. And here's why. John Wilkes Booth's sister, Asia Booth, did in fact say that he did have JWB, John Wilkes Booth, tattooed on one of his hands, but she never specified whether it was the left hand or the right hand. So in this book, Booth Beyond the Grave by W.C. Jameson, super, super interesting stuff comes out. There was a guy, gosh darn it, I forgot his name now. I should have remembered. Let me see if I could remember. John W. Boyd. John W. Boyd. If you can pull him up, put John W. Boyd and John Wilkes Booth. John W. Boyd was an ex-Confederate soldier. And look how similar he resembles John Wilkes Booth. And so if Booth got away, this could have been the guy that got killed. And that was the body that was identified. And then we were told that that was John Wilkes Booth's body. But it most very well could have been John W. Boyd. Right. Boyd is B-O-W or B-O-Y-D, Boyd.
All right.
Yeah.
Wait, was it James William Boyd? Not John W. Boyd, James W. Boyd.
It could be. I can't remember exactly. But if you put him next to John Wilkes Booth, the resemblance is pretty damn uncanny.
Okay, so that's him for a second. Hold on. Let me get a better picture.
Yeah, that's him. Yep, James William Boyd, James W. Boyd.
I should be able to get a sign.
He, too, had initials of JWB on his hands.
Oh, tattooed. Interesting.
That's why the mystery of which hand was it that John Wilkes Booth had the tattoo on adds to the mystery. So, and then if you put John Wilkes Booth's picture. Yep.
There's pictures of John Wilkes Booth's mummy. Did you notice that?
Well, allegedly, that's the mummy that they have in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's a pretty. I don't know which version of the escape Booth I buy, but it's completely plausible because.
What?
So there's John Wilkes Booth. And then if you go back to James W. Boyd, it's crazy. But you don't have to. I think people have a good sense. James W. Boyd was a Confederate soldier. He was spending a lot of time, as a prisoner. Look at the guy. Look at the guy to the right there, and look at.
That's Boyd, and that's Booth.
Go a little to the left on the end. Yeah. That guy right there. Well, yeah. I mean, look at those.
That's Boyd. That's Boyd. That's Booth.
That's Booth. Yep.
They look very similar. Look at that. Really, really similar.
Same initials.
To the point where you can't even really.
It's hard to tell.
You get confused. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Funny.
One theory goes that James Boyd was a ex Confederate soldier, and as a deal to cooperate and be an informant for the Union, um, he was going to get out of jail time and stuff. So he was basically on the payroll for the Union. So my theory goes that he could have like, damn, this guy looks like John Wilkes Booth. We'll just take him out and say that's his body. And it's also interesting that the Wilkes Booth family has wanted to exhume John Wilkes Booth's alleged gravesite and do DNA analysis, and the government hasn't allowed, which is weird. That's their family member. And the government is saying, no, you can't do that. What do they have to hide? And another eerily interesting similarity to the Trump assassination that we had was, remember how in the Trump assassination you had Douglas Mills, the photographer.
Yes.
He took the photograph of George Bush in Sarasota giving the news of 9/11. He also allegedly took the
Iwo Jima
magic
shot.
bullet. Yeah, and the magic bullet with a 20 frames per second camera. You didn't know that?
Yeah. No, are you talking about Trump's magic bullet?
Yeah, the one that allegedly is whizzing by his ear.
There's no chance a bullet like that can nick your ear. It either is going to blow it off or it's going to miss it. Just the air itself is going to have that kind of an impact. You can shoot people with air.
But that's I'm only bringing this up because
it's you Douglas could see Mills. It. There's a picture of the bullet whizzing by. That's fucking ridiculous.
And Douglas Mills, Douglas Mills is the photographer that took that picture, and he was using 20 frames per second camera. It's not possible. Like, it's highly impossible to do that. Like, what are the freaking odds? Oh yeah, but when you
why would you have that in bright light taking a picture of people?
Yeah, and not so again. Douglas Mills was there during 9/11 when George Bush got the news. What are the odds of that? Once in a lifetime, iconic picture. Oh, but wait, don't worry. Douglas Mills is going to be with Trump, and he's going to take this iconic bullet whizzing by the ear picture as well as the Iwo Jima picture. What are the odds? Okay, let's go to the Lincoln assassination.
Wait, so you're saying the 20 is slow, so you would never see a bullet?
Yeah.
Right. Because if you had one that was fast enough to see that.
Like 100 frames per second now.
Yeah, wouldn't everything just be a blur? Like, why would you use, if you had 100 frames, why don't regular photographers use 100 frames per second all the time?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a photographer.
Right. No,
I think it's quality. If I understand, it has to do with picture quality.
At the time, I looked into how you could capture a speeding bullet on film, and there was absolutely no way that those circumstances would have yielded that picture, which is why I definitively was convinced there's absolutely no way. But I can't remember why. I think maybe it would be overexposed. I don't know, but okay, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I just want to make sure I understood.
Yeah, so my biggest thing is just bringing up Douglas Mills, this guy that just so happens to be in these key, epic, iconic moments. Not once, but twice. Now let's go to the Lincoln assassination. Alexander Gardner. Alexander Gardner is the one that took all those exquisite photographs of the co-conspirators. You know, those lovely pictures. They look like models. They're modeling for the camera. Beautiful, beautiful pictures. He also took pictures of of Lincoln's death. He also allegedly took the picture of John Wilkes Booth's death plate, his face. He took the picture. That picture was then given to Edwin Stanton by Lafayette Baker. Lafayette Baker talked about this in his book. He said he gave the picture was given to Stanton as well as the John Wilkes Booth diary. They were given to Edwin Stanton. The book wasn't published until many years later after the assassination. And so for many years, the book, the John Wilkes Booth diary, as well as the death plate, no one knew about it. Then people started asking questions. Wait a minute. Lafayette Baker said there's a picture that positively identified, the corpse as John Wilkes Booth, but Edwin Stanton had it destroyed. So this is what I told James Perloff. If they felt so damn sure that that was John Wilkes Booth's body, why did they destroy the death plate of John Wilkes Booth?
Yeah.
There's no reason unless, damn, they're going to know this isn't John Wilkes Booth. Let's get rid of it. You see what I'm saying? That's a damning piece. And I love Mr. James Perloff. I love him, but I wasn't satisfied with his answer on that. And I brought that up when we had our conversation. And so I want to spend a few minutes on the John Wilkes Booth diary.
Yeah.
It is fascinating because, like I said, no one knew it even existed. And in the John Wilkes Booth, he's kind of talking about it's allegedly written by John Wilkes Booth. I have doubts that John Wilkes Booth even wrote the damn thing. And I'll give you plenty of reasons why I think I have doubts. But in the John Wilkes Booth, he's talking about why he killed Lincoln, and he thought he was doing a good deed. He thought he was being the instrument of God by getting rid of the evil tyrant Lincoln, blah, blah, blah. He's talking about his glorious escape. But there's an interesting part in the John Wilkes Booth diary where at one point he says he's going to go back to DC and he's going to give some names, and there's going to be some issues.
Yes, that rings a bell. Yes.
And so that's in the Wilkes Booth diary. Don Thomas, in my opinion, after McGowan, I would say Don Thomas is the next best Lincoln researcher. I would love to debate him. I love his work, but I vehemently disagree with him in certain aspects. But it wouldn't be nasty. It would be an honor,
of course,
to debate him because I view him as top notch, and I want to put my theories against what he thinks. But Don Thomas, he did a lot of work on the John Wilkes Booth diary, and the FBI in the 1970s did forensics on this diary. The FBI admitted that there were, I can't remember if it was 40 or 80 pages that were verifiably screwed with. They were able to confirm that pages were ripped out and glued back in. And all this happened while the book was under Edwin Stanton's care. Because remember, after Wilkes Booth allegedly was killed at the barn, the diary was with him, allegedly. And Edwin Stanton kept the diary to himself, didn't tell anyone, didn't tell Congress, completely illegal. It was his own possession. And
like his daughter.
Those years,
his daughter's body.
And isn't it crazy that the FBI, which I don't trust at all, but even the FBI admitted, with our forensics, there has, beyond any reasonable doubt, tampering. You can see the glue marks. You can see where the page has been ripped off. So my question as a skeptic in the entire story is, how do we know this was Booth's handwriting and he wrote it? What if this elaborate story was written and then pasted in there to make it fit with the official narrative that's happening? And that's a very interesting thing that none of the official narrative peoples will ever touch. And so I try to cover the escape. I try to cover what the happenings at Ford Theater. I think next time I would love to go deep into the Seward attack because I love that story. I don't think anything ever happened there.
Okay.
So that's my teaser. Teaser.
That sounds great.
If you ever heard of the William Seward attack at the mansion, and you think, oh my God, it was a harrowing thing that Louis Payne Powell came in there and beat everyone up.
Blood everywhere.
If you believe that, you want to hear my thoughts, because I think it was all horse manure, and I will give you verifiable evidence proving why it's not possible. It was complete nonsense. And Louis Payne Powell was a patsy.
All right. Let's hear it. And yeah, so we'll do that. And maybe what would another what's another element of the next level deeper of this story that we could get into next time?
We could go over some of a lot of the things that relate to today, you know, as far as the Lincoln, why it's important, because that's one of the things I sometimes either get or directly or indirectly, somebody like, yeah, that's cool and all, but that happened 160 years ago. Why do I care? Why does it matter? And so I can give you many examples of things that tie into today. I mean, when you think about the JFK and Lincoln similarities, it is bananas.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
Like, I'll give you one that is super crazy. Lincoln was killed at Ford's Theater. JFK was killed in a Ford Lincoln.
My gosh.
And there's so many like that. So many.
Wow. In a Ford Lincoln. Wow.
And a lot of the JFK and Lincoln activities happened almost either exactly 100 years apart. It is wild.
Okay. Save that. There you go. That's that's part 2. That's really cool and interesting. And I would totally want to get into like how it relates, because when you look at all the shenanigans, they absolutely are reflected in what happens today. And it amazes me that, so when you look back at the glory days, the good old days, although I always thought the end of the US was the Civil War, like that was it. That was the beginning of the end. So
let me give you one last one.
Go ahead. Do it. No, I'm there for you, babe.
This one's fun because you know, with a lot of these false flags today, you always see these weird, funny coincidences. Like, what are the odds of that?
Yes.
You see this in the Lincoln assassination.
Wow.
And let me give you some fun ones. I already told you that I view Robert Todd Lincoln, their son, as a very sketchy guy. And I'm going to give you my reasons as to why. So John Wilkes Booth was having relations, and apparently he was engaged to this girl named Lucy Hale. She was the daughter of Senator Hale, who was a hardcore abolitionist. So that's weird. Here's the daughter of a hardcore abolitionist
that is
having relations with the most racist, the most pro-slavery guy around, John Wilkes Booth. So that's funny. Yeah. But Robert Todd Lincoln was also having relations with Lucy Hale. But wait, there's more. There's a story, and this is through the official narrative. This isn't conspiracy thinking, that at some point, Robert Todd Lincoln is at the train tracks. And for whatever reason, he almost as the train is coming, he almost falls into the tracks. But luckily, John Wilkes Booth's brother, Edwin, is right there and grabs him by the collar and saves Robert Todd Lincoln.
What year was that?
I don't know what year it is.
Like when he was younger,
in the 1860s. Yeah.
Yeah. Like before Lincoln was killed.
I believe so, yeah. And so...
Well, there must have been only like a couple hundred people living in D.C. at the time.
Oh, I did the math, and there was a lot of people in D.C. at that point in time. Yeah, that's what you would think. But see, I liken that to how it's funny how everyone, all these elites, everyone was friends with Jeff Epstein. It was people. Jeff Epstein.
Yeah.
Is that how little this society is, that everyone is hooking up and partying with Jeff Epstein? And so in a weird way, all these people are just like having these weird coincidences, running into each other. John Wilkes Booth slept in the bed where Lincoln died at the Peterson home at some point. And here's another weird one with Robert Todd Lincoln. Robert Todd Lincoln, he's the one that interned his mom later on into the crazy house.
Yes, right.
And so Robert Todd Lincoln, here's Robert Todd Lincoln interning his mom into the loony bin, and he's also having relations with John Wilkes Booth's fiance. He was definitely around when he was in the White House when his dad got shot. Okay, so he obviously made it to Ford's Theater when he heard the news, so he was present at that assassination. Fast forward a few years later, he was also present in the McKinley assassination. Fast forward, he was also present in the Garfield assassination. What the hell's up with Mr. Robert Todd Lincoln? He's a very sketchy guy. He also, Robert Todd Lincoln, for whatever reason, burnt a lot of his father's papers.
Yes. What was with that?
You tell me.
Right.
And
Like
so
the
Robert Todd
Forrest
Lincoln,
Gump of presidential assassinations, like just in
you
every
know,
picture, like, oh look, there he is, there he is, there he is.
and it's been a while since I did this, but I can't remember if it was Garfield or McKinley. Fudge, I can't remember.
McKinley was the one that they kind of had to double murder him. I think he totally survived the assassination attempt.
It might have been Garfield, because Garfield was a big dude. Where they tried to shoot him, and the initial shot didn't kill him, and it was more due to medical malpractice.
Oh, it was Garfield? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because the reason why with President Garfield, the doctor that was recommended by Robert Todd Lincoln kept digging in the wound with his unwashed hands. No gloves, didn't wash them, just dirty ass mangy hands. And that's what got President Garfield sick, and he ended up dying. And Robert Todd Lincoln was the one that recommended him. And the thing is, this doctor was digging in McKinley's side that wasn't even the side where the bullet was. So he was doing all this unnecessary, unneeded damage. And so even the official narrative says that it was due to medical malpractice. It wasn't the bullet that killed him.
That's right in Wiki, yep.
And Robert Todd Lincoln is the one that recommended that doctor. How freaking bananas. So I just wanted to give you some little exciting tidbits for you history nerds out there. And there's so much more that I've got. I was trying to condense as much as I could.
No, that's cool. So next time I'm going to ask you to just summarize your best guess at what happened, like what really happened, or what ties these threads together, if it includes like why Todd did this, or what, in a nutshell, unless you want to do that now. And I want to do the Seward thing, and I want to talk about why it matters and the connections to today. But do you want to give just what do you really think happened and why?
I think so. As I say this, some people may be like, the hell, I just heard you talking for a couple hours and that's your answer. I've read many books. I listened to many historians on symposiums and lectures. I'm such a nerd when it comes to this. I'll put on a lecture and just listen to it. And as I'm listening to it, I hear these guys talking like, that's bullshit. Why are you talking about? That's not true. I'm arguing because this is the level of comfort I feel with this. And so I had a little mini debate when I was at Ford's Theater with one of the Rangers, and I upset him. He didn't want to talk to me. He walked away. He didn't like my takes.
Wow.
He couldn't dispute what I had to say, but he got upset. Right. How dare you? I'm like, dude, I have a good point. But so that's a funny little thing. But
what is truth?
After I'm just trying to lay it out. I've read many books on the matter. I've listened to the McGowan book well over 10 times, 15 times perhaps. I've memorized it almost by heart at this point.
A lot of detail.
I've listened to countless hours of lectures. I've listened to documentaries. I've listened to podcasts on this. I'm that much of a freaking nerd when it comes to this. And after all that, I have no idea what happened that day. I know people are not going to like that, but like the only thing I feel sure about is Lincoln was killed. That's really the only thing I feel sure. You just said Rathbone. Yeah. If you had me put some money on it, my money is on Rathbone as being the killer. Does that mean I'm 100% sure on it? No, I don't go with that. Last night I did a show. We were talking about the Charlie Kirk stuff. We gave a bunch of theories out there, and neither of us said this is the way it happened. I don't take that approach with anything. And maybe that's something some people don't want to say. No, I want someone that's sure. I want someone that feels this. That's great. That's not me. I'm telling you, I've done tons and tons of homework. I still don't know what happened. I will tell you what I don't believe. I don't believe the official story on the whole Lincoln and Ford Theater. I don't believe the attack on the Seward Mansion ever took place at all. I don't believe that. And I'll tell you why on the next time we speak. But do I know exactly what happened? And the thing is, this happened 160 years ago. And there's so many aspects to it, like I pointed out, with Booth breaking his leg here, or it was there, or Booth doing this, and some people say it was this, and some people say it was that. The story is riddled with those moments that there is no genuine consensus. You talk to one historian, he'll tell you this. You talk to a whole different other historian, he'll tell you that. And so there is no consensus. So I feel no one can say they know exactly what happened. You weren't there. This was 160 years ago. We'll never really know. But I will tell you, I won't believe this, or I won't accept it because it makes no logical sense. So that's my stance on it.
I would say, yeah, I haven't studied it like you or James Perloff or any of the people who wrote these books. And there's so many details, so many people, so many connections, so much cover up, so much funny business, so many deaths. Obviously, it's a very complicated story. But I would say when it gets to that point where everybody's a Mason or they're in secret societies, they're all connected to the North, their families have continued to thrive and flourish through the years, from Claire Booth Luce to Sherry Blair in the Booth family. I wonder if that name is in the 60s family book of like the 60 families that are super powerful in America, written like 75 years ago. But I accept, subject to like being, have a reason to reject it, that it was an economic decision to exploit the South, corner the South, because the South didn't really capitulate even after the war was over in some respects. So, for example, the Department of Justice, the FBI, was created, the Department of Justice specifically. The FBI was later, 1913, but the Department of Justice was created after the Civil War to enforce congressional law on the South, because there's no enforcement mechanism in the Constitution. So the South was continuing to resist. So they disenfranchised the rebels down there, which is why you got the Ku Klux Klan, which was a vigilante organization, which was then totally hijacked by the FBI. But I think the Civil War was, maybe the number one reason was the way that they were exploiting the South economically by having tariffs. This is why I like the Electoral College, because if you have a totally rural or agrarian or whatever section of the population, and you have one person, one vote, then every vote will always go towards the city folks or the northern people. So when they start having tariffs that says, okay, textiles from Britain will be really, really expensive, or export duties, so British can't buy Southern cotton, like things like that, purely economic, it allows for one section to exploit the other. And I feel like if you look at what happened after the war and how they did send carpetbaggers down there, just really controlled and exploited the South in a way that,
the Reconstruction period under Johnson was ruthless.
Yeah, they had to disenfranchise those people. They had to, and Lincoln wasn't going to do it. So, I mean, I would look to the bankers as always. I would.
Well, there's another, and I know you're Catholic, and I used
go
to be
ahead.
Catholic as well, but
I don't defend the Vatican, that's for sure.
There's an interesting, you can see the Masonic influence there, and as well as a Catholic connection. I mean, Mary Surratt, John Surratt Jr., they were heavily Catholic. The Maryland area had a lot of Catholics. And then remember I briefly told you about John Surratt's escape to Europe, and he made it down to the Vatican, and he was hiding out. And Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness. And then one thing that I recently found out was when you look at, I don't know how much you've looked into the Mexican Revolution of the early 1900s, but a lot of people don't realize that the Mexican Revolution was essentially the Catholic Church versus Masons.
Yeah, it's illegal to be a Mason in the Catholic Church. You cannot be both.
Yeah, so in this era of the Civil War, it seems like there's a crazy battle to
Well, it's
Catholic
funny
versus Masons.
that you should bring that up because McGowan shows a lot of people in Masonic poses, but Claire Booth Luce, who is a Booth, she was big time Catholic, very prominent. I have a book here, really, really deep history book. I forget the name of it. It's red. About I think it was Vatican II. I have to find it. You have to give me a second.
It's also funny
I
too
got
that at Ford's Theater, the stage is all the black and white tiling, like the Masonic stuff.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah, the chessboard.
it gets better. Just around the block when you're walking to Ford's Theater, a giant Masonic temple right there.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be surprised because it's only half a mile
No.
from the White House. Okay, so the book I'm talking about here is John Courtney Murray, Time, Life, and the American Proposition: How the CIA's Doctrinal Warfare Program Changed the Catholic Church. Now, Claire Booth Luce was married to the owner, or I think it was the owner of, I think Luce was the owner of Time Life at this time. So this book is so freaking dry and dense. You can see I only got like a third of the
Well,
way through.
McGowan ties it all into that Laurel Canyon deal as well. So it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you that
Everything's connected.
it's an intergenerational through line.
Yeah.
It's that Carlin Club that just we ain't in it. But
And
yeah,
that's why that's one of the reasons why I'm fascinated. I we'll get into it more next time around. But I mean, that's what excites me. You're like, damn, I've seen this story play out. And that's why to me it's important, because when I hear Trump turning his head at the right moment, like, you ripped that off of Lincoln. Hold on.
Oh, he also ripped it off of Tony Soprano a little bit. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Tony Soprano episode. My son was watching Blowing Through the Sopranos over this summer on his college break. And he's like, come on, no way. I'm like, what? He says, this is where they got the Trump thing. Check it out. And he shows me the Tony Soprano assassination attempt where he's wearing a bandage on his ear for the whole entire episode because they tried to shoot him and failed. I'm like, they were just tapping into that, like, the pathways that were already carved in our brains, like, oh yeah, that could happen. But yeah, no, it couldn't. So, well, that's great. Let's do it as soon as you want. And it's probably, if it's all fresh in your mind anyway, let's hit it. And that's great. I hope all is well. Please tell the people where they can find you and how they can support you.
Yeah, you can just find me searching What is Truth Podcast by Weezy on your favorite podcast player, also on Rumble and Odyssey. Odyssey is nice, even if you never log into Odyssey and you like my content or material. That's probably, if I get nuked ever from everywhere else, Odyssey's probably going to be the last stand.
Yeah, I would think so.
So I always tell people, if you really, really like my stuff, even if you never use Odyssey ever again or whatever, just have me as a backup. Just follow
remember.
Me there. Yeah, just follow me there, because
we'll all be there.
Who knows?
That will be the last platform standing for us.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's all right. So, but I appreciate so much everybody listening. That was super fascinating. I cannot wait for part 2. I want to go deeper with the Seward stuff, but also get broader and forward with the parallels and the implications for today. And I'll look a little more into Claire Booth Luce, which even McGowan in his stuff didn't get to it till the very last, his like chapter 12. He did not know that Claire Booth Luce was a Booth. And I always knew that. I grew up knowing that because my mother liked Claire Booth Luce. I was like, because she was Catholic. I was like, are you kidding?
McGowan, unfortunately, he had plans to add more to the book. And so this is where I was in contact with someone that has had contact with David McGowan's brother. From what I understand, David McGowan's brother. He's a little older. He's not in the best health at this moment in time, but he has listened to my takes, and
Wow.
he's enjoyed it, which is a
Wow.
huge honor for me because I take the position that I'm just trying to carry the torch that McGowan left when it comes to Lincoln. I
Right.
espouse I've come up with my own takes.
Yeah.
I've come up with my own theories, but it's all heavily inspired from David McGowan.
Yeah.
And so I'm always sure to bring up the late great David McGowan's
Yeah.
memory, and him
Yep.
being my biggest inspiration.
Yep. Nothing but the facts. Dave McGowan. All right. So hat tip to Dave. We'll see you again soon. Weezy, thank you all for listening. This is Monica Perez.